All right, welcome to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Norman Rockwell. Just kidding. I am your host, Gary Snyder. My guest tonight is Bridget back there taking her spot by the fire, which is her favorite place in the world. And then we also have Terry Gooden, former state representative, former candidate for lieutenant governor. There's a lot of other things, but we'd be here an hour.
Right. So most importantly, Dad, right?
That's
So
it.
yeah. So Gary, good to have you on here, or good to be on here. And
I was going to say, yeah, you can go ahead and host and I'll answer your questions.
No, that's okay. I trust you with the hosting, man. You're the hostess with the mostest, right? So, but it's an honor to be here with you, and it's an honor to be here with Bridget, and more importantly, it's an honor to be able to talk about Indiana, the great state of Indiana, and how we can fix her.
Yeah, we have Pepper off to the side here, sipping wine by the fire and making sure I do everything right.
Well, good. I'm glad you're there, Pepper. You go supervise this guy, right?
And as you can see, we are decked out for fall here at the SnydeReport studios.
Hey, so fall is fail? Is that the way what's supposed?
We typically wait till September 1st or that first weekend of September, unless it drops down into the 40s, which it did last night. And
oh my.
And it's supposed to get down to close to 40 tonight. So we got the fire going. We got the fall stuff out. We're all set here. Unfortunately, our government is falling apart. There we go.
It is, Gary. It is.
See, I just quick on my toes. Boom.
Well, hey, you know what? Here we go. That's no pun intended either, right? So, but I'm glad you've got the Americana setting, because I tell you what, this is something we need to celebrate. It's something we need to fight for, and it's something we need to defend. And I'm all about that. And I know your listeners are too, Gary. And I know specifically you are.
We had, and the reason we brought you on tonight, and then I think we have Congressman Carson tomorrow, and I'm sure he has a complete different perspective on this, since he might be one that would be infected, not infected by.
Well, infection is probably the better term, Gary, with what's going on at the Capitol.
But there were close to 50 state legislators, MAGA Republicans, headed to the White House today to bend the knee, kiss the ring, and fold faster than a rusty lawn chair.
It's one of those deals is that they'll probably come back like they were sitting in a rusty lawn chair. I just hope they had their Tdap or their tetanus shot where they get in there, right? So,
and I'm going to get off topic here a minute. Every time I would go to the doctor, you had a tetanus shot. When was your last year? It was always last year.
Right.
Until I actually stepped on a rusty nail, and I had to go, and I wasn't going to go. And then my wife started showing me pictures of people with tetanus. And I'm like, oh, hell, that's a real thing.
Yeah, it is. When's the last time you got your shot, Gary?
Now it's been last year.
Okay. So good. I was glad you was going to say that. I said, is that in the business what they call a softball or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was about a couple of years ago when I did step on that nail. So, but anyway, go ahead with your thought as the Indiana MAGA Republicans head to the White House today.
It's disgusting, Gary. How blatant and how, I think disgusting is the best word, because here we are, Donald Trump, he's afraid he's going to lose congressional seats. He's afraid he's going to lose the majority in the House. So what's he do? He talks to these ultra MAGA idiots that, hey, we need to change the map so we can stay in control, so we can continue to harm America, right? Mm-hmm. So Indiana, surely to goodness they haven't taken that line, line, hook, and sinker. But man, I tell you what, it's not a good sign if they're bringing them out to court them in the White House and in Washington, D.C. But, one of the things is as they get to Washington, D.C., I wonder if they'll run into some National Guard soldiers from Indiana. Maybe they can say hello, huh? Those poor National Guard soldiers being deployed to Washington, D.C. to guard the memorials. If they want to send police officers in, let's send in the National Police Force, and let's send them into the areas where the highest crime.
Yeah, it seems like they're just
the monuments, right?
They're just walking around in Georgetown and enjoying life at the. I think I saw a video today of 3 of them just hanging out in front of the Krispy Kreme for like an hour.
Well, God bless our National Guard troops. I'm glad that they're able to step up, and I'm glad they're able to defend America. And unfortunately, we've got a commander in chief right now who's a very weak leader. And when you have weak folks, Gary, people in charge who just aren't leaders, this is what you see: is you see knee-jerk reactions. You see things that just are illogical, and you see people that don't follow the rules. An example of that is just like you said, the contingent of Hoosier maggots that went to the national capital, right? And they're going to talk about how we can redistrict Indiana, so maybe pick up 2 more Republican seats. But I'm telling you what, Gary, this will all backfire. People in Hoosiers are fed up with
Do you
what's
really
going
think
on.
so?
Well, I think they're fed up with what's going on, Gary, and I think what will happen is Indiana, if they spread these congressional districts too thin on some of their Republican candidates, and if the Democrats work hard and people are fed up, then guess what? They're not going to gain Republican seats. They're going to lose Republican seats because those Republican districts will be spread too thin. You know, the reality of it is, if they do it, they do it. We can complain and cry and scream all we
Nothing we
want,
can do about it.
but there's nothing we can do about it. And that's why you always say you got to go vote. We got to make sure in Indiana we got a way to stop this nonsense. And the only way to do that, Gary, is to vote. And those people who don't vote, those people who are lackadaisical about it, are the ones, unfortunately, most of the time, are the ones that are impacted the most by it. And it's one of those deals where, hey, you got to step up. It's time for people to wake up. And I don't know, Gary, will it make a difference? I think it will. I think little bits and pieces at a time are taking its toll. I don't think that there's a huge outcry or outblast against Donald Trump in Indiana. No, there's not. He's probably more popular here than he has ever been. We start talking about the few little bits and pieces of those Lugar and those Lugar Republicans that are still out there. Those folks have got to be wringing their hands, and they've got to try to figure out, okay, where do we go? And the Democrats have to give a plausible reason for those folks to come over and join us and vote with us, and we just haven't done that in the past, Gary. We always get stuck in
I
a
don't think we still are. I mean,
well.
seriously.
You're probably right. We're stuck in these lanes of these social issues that impact 0.0003% of the people, and we're on their side anyway, right? So it's like they want to force our candidates to go through these litmus tests, and then at the end of the day, the candidates decide they don't want to run. But here's another example of how
Well,
blatant this is.
you were almost a victim of that last year. I mean,
You're exactly right.
You were not pure enough for some Democrats, and they tried to get you off the ballot or tried to beat you at convention.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, Gary. Some common sense has got to play in here. And, here's the perfect example as we talk about this is the Republicans know, they're smart about this. They know that political wedges are the way you win elections, right? Well,
Mhm.
we've got these gullible Democrats that fall right into it. Now, Trump is doing these executive orders now of all these social issues that we've dealt with in the past, like the flag burning and all this stuff. And it's like, here we go again,
Yeah.
right? Round 2. And it's like, okay, when will you learn, Democrats? When are you going to learn that you are being drawn into this big trap, and every time they pull the string and the box lid falls down on you and traps you in there? And I don't know when we're going to learn that. And it's one of those deals, Gary, where if we don't, we better wake up. We're almost on the verge of being irrelevant.
Well, and I got a little bit of trouble with my interview with Cherish last week, because I consider myself a very empathetic person, but
Right.
that empathy only runs so far. And, whether it's, immigration and you voted for Trump and now your family are getting deported, or whether you were mad about the price of eggs. But yeah, eggs are down, but now beef isn't. I mean, you can go down the line.
Yeah.
The 2 small bags of groceries now, I might as well just give Walmart $40 fucking every time I walk in.
Well, if you are, you're getting off cheap, man, because it's a whole lot more than that, So, yeah, it's a situation, man, where you really, you've heard the old adage, and we've heard this 1,000 times: elections have consequences, right?
Mhm.
And they truly do, and we're living through those consequences, Gary, of the elections and the past results of those elections. And unfortunately, those of us who thinks there's a better way, we have to suffer through this as well. But let me say this: Indiana, one of the worst states in the nation as far as quality of life to live in. I can list all of the factors that we are in the bottom of that all these other
Not
states
everybody gets this.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah, but here's the deal. And so here we are. We've got 50 plus, you said, legislators that are going to Washington, D.C. to talk about a blatant political issue redistricting and gerrymandering. Okay, here's my suggestion. How about getting on the airplane and flying to Washington, D.C. to see how we can fund our lunch programs? How about flying to Washington, D.C. to see how we can fund our preschool programs? And how about standing up against cutting preschool programs and school lunches so we can give tax breaks to millionaires? That would be a better trip to Washington, D.C. to me than worrying about the reorganization. If you do the right thing and you do what's right in in Congress and in the House, the election part will work its way out. It'll come through.
My son, as prophetic as he is, the rock star,
Right.
He said it best, I think, when he said, if they didn't suck, they wouldn't have to redistrict.
Exactly. He's got it right. Get it right on the head, Gary. It's just ridiculous, man. It's like, but like you said, okay, when are people going to wake up? How do you educate folks to realize that what's going on in their life that is bad, and the reason they can't afford groceries, and the reason they're only making it paycheck to paycheck is because of the politics that they're supporting? I mean, you would think that people would get that, but it's like they don't. It's the education side of that they don't understand who's doing this to them, or do they care?
They don't care. That's my take anyway. But they got on the plane. Some were saying this was at taxpayer expense. Some were saying no, we paid our own way. You still went. You still went to kiss the ring. I've seen pictures of some of the legislators posting pictures with their wives and all this crap. Cowards. Every single one of them is a coward. They don't care about Hoosier voters. They don't care about the state. They don't care about tradition. They don't care about history. They're going to go there. They're going to blow Donald Trump, and they're going to come home, and they're going to, get that picture in your mind.
No.
They're going to come.
No.
They're going to come home, and they're going to do exactly as he said. Now, you have some people that, no, they're going to. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are going to call a special session. And that money, I mean, think how many kids that could feed or how many prescriptions that could buy. But they will redistrict either 8-1 or 9-0. I mean, I've seen maps that had Andre's district running all the way down to Cincinnati.
Right.
So if you have any thoughts that they aren't going to do this, get it out of your head now, because they are political whores and they will do what Donald tells them to do.
Well, you're right, Gary. It's political prostitution. You said it best. And the situation we have here is the tour they're on right now is the self-preservation tour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going there to be self-preserved in their political spots and make sure that the maps are drawn so they can continue to do so. So what we've got to figure out is how do we outflank them? How do we get around that? How do we let people know what's going on, why they are in Washington, D.C.? We've got a congressperson in our area. They won't show up to town halls, but then they post Facebook pictures of themselves at the Kentucky Derby, and they post Facebook pictures of themselves at the Indianapolis 500. They can show up to those events and they can drink the wine and do whatever they want to do there.
And probably giving those tickets.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that.
I mean, you got
Courtesy,
the richest,
right?
You got the richest person in Congress in Jefferson Shreve charging $100 to $250 a pop to eat dinner with him. Well, there are people not being able to afford dinner that night.
Well, here's the deal. And a lot of people don't realize this, but the Republican Party stands for social Darwinism. Only the strong survive. And what it takes to defeat social Darwinism is moral courage. And there seems to be no moral courage in their side right now. So the Democrats have to continue to stand up and be that guidepost and let people know that what's going on is wrong and we can do better, not just in Indiana, but in our nation as a whole.
Terry, can you hold through a quick break?
Sure.
All right. This is the SnydeReport. I'm Gary Snyder. We'll be right back. All right. This is the part of the SnydeReport where we thank our sponsors, and we have a growing list. So let's start with Robin Winston. Robin has been there when we first sent out our first email, 147 subscribers. We're now over 108,000. So thank you, Rob and Winston, in helping us get the podcast going in the right direction. Next up is our good friend, former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Get that anywhere you buy your books. Also, former two-term governor, two-term U.S. Senator Evan Bayh. Evan has been a sponsor of the newsletter, now jumps on board with the podcast. Congressman Andre Carson. Congressman Carson has been there from the start. We're glad to have him over here on the newsletter now. He needs your help to win re-election next year. So make sure you support Congressman Carson. Next up, State Representative Cherish Pryor. Cherish has been there from the start on the newsletter, joining us on the podcast now. So is State Senator Greg Taylor. I want to thank Senator Taylor for all of his support through the years. Next, we have a couple of new sponsors. First up is Indiana Citizen. You want to check out their new project, One Heartbeat Away. Do Christian nationalists have an agenda for Indiana? You know, all you have to do is look at the lieutenant governorship and you can see right away that they do. So thank you, Indiana Citizen. Next up is Jump Laundry. You can visit them at jumplaundry.com. They have home pickup. They do your dry cleaning, wash and fold with, I might add, no judgments, and next day service. So if you're in a crunch for time, you don't want to do your own laundry, get a hold of Jump Laundry at jumplaundry.com or at 317-740-5011, and they will take care of all of your laundry needs. Welcome back to the Snide Report. I am your host, Gary Snyder. With me tonight is Terry. That's it. Just Terry. That's all you have written.
Terry. Hey, Terry Gooden, right? Terry something. Yeah. Hey, you. So, you know, as we continue to work through this mess as a Democrat, anonymity might be the situation, right? Unfortunately, right now we seem to be irrelevant and all of our words are bouncing off the wall. But at some point, I will say this: it's Terry Gooden, Democrat, and I'm proud to say that.
You know, I was asked by a mutual friend, what's it going to take for that person in Huntington that's voted for Trump 3 times to finally change his vote? And I keep saying economic pain. And this friend of ours asked me, so it will take economic pain to make them vote for the brown person over the white person. And I got to thinking, and I'm like, maybe not.
Well, Gary, I think, and this is probably going against the norm of what most people think, but I think what you have is you'll have that economic pain, but they will not go vote for the Democrat. They just won't go vote.
No.
So, and that's what will happen. So what we got to make sure is we continue to get our vote out, because at some point those folks are going to say, hey, I'm sick and tired of it. He promised us this, they promised us that. Now we're getting screwed. So at some point they're going to say, I'm just not going to go vote. Unfortunately, that's what happens. And then that's when hopefully that the Democrats will be prepared to step up and take over and move forward. As we said, Gary, it takes moral courage to do this. And I am sick and tired of watching in Washington, D.C., Congress and the Senate passing tax cuts for people like Jeffrey Epstein, billionaires, so they can buy another island to be able to sex traffic on. I'm sick and tired of it, man. And it's time that people stood up and said, say it for what it is.
And you know, the Indiana they want to make sure that the richest among us, the richest Hoosiers, get vouchers too, and get their kids' private school paid for.
Right.
And you know, that's a completely different episode, maybe, but when you take a look at that, I mean, they've literally priced private schools out of the reach of most poor people, middle-class families, that the vouchers were supposedly there to help. And I don't have to tell you this. You were a superintendent. You know, if the voucher is $6,000, that's, you know, they're going to add a little bit onto that. So maybe the
Yeah,
tuition's $9,000, but you know, that $6,000 voucher doesn't pay for it anymore when it did 3 years ago.
right.
You know,
There's no
I've experienced that. Tuition's $2,000 or $3,000. The vouchers
right,
come out. Now the tuition matches the voucher. And then the next year, maybe it's $1,000 more than the voucher, then a 2,000 more. And it's pricing, you know, the kids that it was supposed to help out of the market.
Well, here's the deal, Gary. So we're in that position now where that's it's going to be very difficult to turn that clock back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what needs to happen: there needs to be some rule changes on that. If you accept a child with a voucher, then whatever that voucher is that comes to that school, that's how much money you get. You can't charge them more.
No.
You cannot charge them extra. So if your tuition is $40,000 a year, you're going to get the $6,800 or the $7,000 voucher. That's it. You're not going to be able to suck any more money out of these parents. And what's happened is you hit it right on the head, Gary. This is not providing opportunities for so-called opportunities for the children that are the most disadvantaged. All it is providing opportunities for those private schools to raise their tuition because they know now they're guaranteed the $8,000. Hey, let's raise it, as you said, Gary. Let's raise it $2 or $3 or $4 or $5,000. Probably what they did was they probably raised it the same amount as what the tuition they were receiving.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. I doubt if they was even I don't know, grateful enough to not even raise it of what the voucher was. It's just a scam. It's a scam, man, and it does nothing but hurt the general public, and it does nothing but hurt the Hoosiers as a whole, and it obviously benefits the small group of Hoosiers that can already do what they need to do to benefit, right?
So, exactly. So these legislators are coming back. They're on a plane back. Small protest out at the airport today. I give them credit for out there. Our good friend Cherish Pryor, she was out there protesting them leaving. Is there any doubt in your mind what they're going to do when they get back?
Well, I think of course the governor has to call a special session, and I think at some point it's going to be an emergency, right? We've got to change the maps. It's an emergency. So I'm like you, Gary. If I was as we say down here, if I was a betting man, I'd probably bet that guess what? They're gonna have their little session. They're gonna redistrict, and if they do, I hope they screw it up, man, because I'm ready and eager and willing to help those folks run in this next election cycle. And if they thin those districts out, I hope it just falls right back in their face.
You know, I was fortunate enough to have Colin Allred and Beto O'Rourke on, both at the forefront of the fight in Texas. I think Colin is already an announced U.S. Senate candidate. I'm pretty sure Beto will probably announce, but they were in the front lines of fighting with the state legislature down there trying to stop Texas. I asked them for advice, and they're like, there's not really a whole lot you can do when you're outnumbered the way you are.
Well, Gary, here's a situation, and we try to explain to people how do we overcome this. And the only way you can overcome this is you have to restore the confidence back to voters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, voters are more scared of the radical left than they are the radical right. So it's like that's what we're presenting is that we're presenting a proposal and a proposition that scares people, right? And it's like, okay, we can't do that. We've got to figure out we've got to draw our lines back in, check the trot lines, see what we've got, and then kind of move forward that way. And if we just continue to spin our wheels in mud, Gary, as we said, and I think you said this too the other day, I was watching your podcast, and the Democrats have become irrelevant at some point. At what point is it that it doesn't even matter? I mean, right now it doesn't matter if they show up to the State House because they can conduct business.
They can lock them out,
right?
They can lock them out and they can do nothing.
Right. So it's one of those deals where we also need to remember, right? If as folks get in a position to be able to remedy the wrongs, then we've got to figure out a way to right the wrongs. And it's one of those deals where as we move forward, we just got to make sure that we keep these things in our memory and realize what happened, and we got to move forward, and we got to make sure that these things don't happen again.
You know, Beto said this to me, and it's something I've been saying for a while. And, you know, do you want to be right or do you want to win?
Right.
You know, you can get on your high horse and talk about all the social issues you want. That doesn't get you one vote where I live. It doesn't get you one vote where you live. And until
Right.
you can get that vote where I live or you live, you're going to keep losing 60-40, period.
Right. Bottom line, you're going to lose whatever the political demographics are. That's the number you're going to lose by. You're exactly right, Gary. And we've got to get into the mainstream again. We've got to worry about working families. We've got to figure out a way to solve problems and issues of, like you said, the price at the grocery store. We've got to figure out how do we create opportunities for our kids to be able to do better than what we do, right? And what we've done. We've got to figure out how do we move Indiana forward. And unfortunately, the group that's in charge now, all they want to do is look in the rearview mirror and figure out how we can go backwards in life.
You know, we've been stereotyped with the left coast and the right coast Democrats. And I think sometimes the elected Democrats in the state, because they come from Democrat strongholds. I mean, there are no Democrats elected outside those strongholds. If there is, it's very few.
Right.
And they are sometimes the face of Democrats in Indiana, and a lot of times they are parroting those national talking points. That does
Right.
not help get one vote where I live or where you live. Now,
Well,
I am encouraged a little bit. I've interviewed several candidates here over the last couple weeks, and they seem to be on message.
good.
They seem to be
Good.
talking about kitchen table issues and nothing but. You know,
Right.
if you go back and watch my interview with Kelly Thompson running for the 3rd District up here, she gives a master class on
Right.
what a candidate should be talking about and how they should be talking. A friggin'
Absolutely.
master class.
Yeah.
And if every single candidate, every single Democrat would go back and watch that interview with her, we would be in a lot better position going forward.
Right. Absolutely, Gary. And yes, I saw that interview, and she's right on. And as we move forward, we've got to figure out how do we help those folks. And you know, that 3rd district may look a lot different this time next year, right? So yeah, so there's this really, so the redistricting, it's too bad. It might create opportunity, but with the opportunity, you have to be prepared to strike, right?
Yep.
You can't continue to go out there and continue to do the goofy stuff and say the goofy stuff and continue to think that you're going to win. You just can't do it. And we've got to pick up the appetite. We've got to pick up the mantle for working families once again, and we got to figure out how do we move working families forward. When working families are successful, then in Indiana, then Democrats are successful. So that's what
Exactly.
we've got to figure out. How do we reconnect?
Terry, anything else you want to cover tonight?
I just want to say thanks, Gary. I appreciate the background there. It really is. It's really settling.
Fire's going out though, and my wife is giving me the evil eye. She wants her damn fire going.
She wants it stoked back up, huh? So, but yeah, Gary, I appreciate what you're doing, and kudos. You've got some great guests coming on, man, and it's been very interesting to watch and pay attention and see what's going on. And it sounds, as you said, it sounds like people are starting to come back together and starting to coalesce around a central issue and a central topic. And you saw the numbers nationwide, Gary. The Democrat message is not selling anywhere now.
No.
Nowhere. Everywhere the Democrat registrations are down. So it's like, hey, at what point do you say we got to stop, put the brakes on, let's get back in?
Here's some
the passing line.
advice. Number one, never, and let me repeat, never put Chuck Schumer on TV. He should never be the face of anything that's Democrats. Period.
Right.
Just stop.
Right.
I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's a great Democrat. I'm sure he's done a lot of great things. Don't go on TV.
Right. Right. Good point. You know, and we were able to capitalize with Mitch McConnell and use him as the whipping post. And we've got, they've got Chuck Schumer. So we've got to figure out, okay, how do we turn these tables and how do we put people on there that represents young America?
We got plenty. There's plenty.
Forward.
Yeah. Bernie.
Absolutely.
Put Bernie on. AOC. Put her on.
Right.
I mean, you can go down the line.
What about yourself? You had Andy Bashir. Put Andy
Andy
Bashir in the
Bashir
front of the
on.
crowd. You know, put
You can't.
as
I
we
mean, you
move.
can't get any more popular of a governor than Andy Bashir, a blue governor in a red state.
Yeah, and it's like it's time to fight back, and they're fighting back, and they're fighting back in a responsible manner. They're fighting back in a smart way, and you know, I'm glad to see Gavin Newsom.
Oh my God,
I'm
what
glad
he's doing
stepping
is
up.
just brilliant.
Yes, I mean it's time to start playing that game, right? So I mean, it's one of those deals where, as you talk about this, it's kind of like Democrats show up to a gunfight with a knife, right? So it don't work. It don't work at all. And it looks like Bridget's already sacked
She's
out,
out.
man. So yeah, I think she's heard this conversation before, right?
She probably has. Well, anytime there's a fire, that's her spot. So
I don't blame her. I don't blame her at
she's
all.
right.
Well,
She
if I
sets
was
up
there,
in her.
Gary, I'd be.
She gets
I'm
in her
sorry.
dog bed every night, and she sits there, and I have to wrap her up in her blanket, and then she'll lay down.
Wow.
So,
Well, if I was there, I'd be arm wrestling her for that spot, man.
Thanks a lot, Terry.
Thank you, brother. Good to see you. And,
I am
say
Gary
hello to everybody.
Snyder. He is not. He is Terry Gooden. This is the SnydeReport, and we are out.